Yeah, you never know what you're going to catch or not, and so it's nice to have it recorded. Um, so that's it, man. That's my thing now. I go out, I jump in the pool, I stay there, and then I feel like I accomplished something, even though all I did was jump in cold water. It's simple.
I've been watching some videos of that of guys sitting in bathtubs with just ice and ice.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know what that's, it's got to be 20 degrees, 25, 30 degrees, but man, and they're just, you see the face, they're gritting it up and they're
Yeah.
telling you, this is so good for your nervous system. I was like, oh, it
You
doesn't
know,
look good. I'm sure it is.
I don't listen. I think, right? Like I said, I'm 56, man, and there isn't a part of my body that doesn't ache after working out, right? I mean, joints, ligaments, back, knees, ankles. So basically, I'm looking at it as an ice pack for my body,
Yeah, that's true,
right?
man.
Like my shoulders all jacked up. So when I get out, I know that's been a benefit. Uh, Beyond any other science, I know that putting ice on something reduces inflammation, right? So I feel better that regard. The other thing is, and it's the mental aspect of it, which is I am forcing myself to do something that sucks.
Yeah.
And so every time I'm at the edge of the pool going, this is so stupid. Why am I doing this? And then once I jump in, oh, okay. And then I settle. And then there's a calmness, man. And then when you get out, as silly as it sounds, Chad, there's a sense of accomplishment. Like I endured something that I didn't have to. I put it on myself, and now I'm a little bit mentally tougher than I was before I started.
Hmm.
It's a very weird dynamic,
I like
but
that.
I could.
Does it get easier each time you do it? You can stay in longer and longer. Is it one of those things you got to build up?
That's what I'm. My goal is. Like, listen, it's 60 degrees. The guys that are doing it like on YouTube, and they're in buckets of ice and water. That's like 40 degrees, and they say that health wise, you shouldn't stay in for more than 10 minutes with 40 degrees. I mean, you can get hypothermia,
Yeah.
if you're not careful, right? So
Mhm.
60 degrees, I can stay in. I've gone almost 20 minutes, but I think that it's just a matter of doing something. Listen, everything starts as a fad, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then if it's like, I'm sure weightlifting started as a fad, like, and then people
Think about
started,
running. Think about running.
yeah.
Back in the 70s, if you like, hey, I'm going out for a run, people be like, are you all right? Is
What
everything
did you
okay?
do? Who were you running from?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
What crime did you commit? Yeah.
yeah. No, I think that that's right. Everything starts as a fad, and then if we see a health benefit from it, it becomes commonplace and then a routine. And I think maybe this might be one of those things. But at least for the couple weeks I've been doing it, I don't know, man. It's been cool, literally and figuratively cool. So
I'm taking it as a sign because I've talked to you, I've talked to other people recently. I've never heard of this ever. In the last 6 months, I've had multiple conversations. So it must just be something I got to get in and try and do.
I
I'm
would
like you, though. I might start at like 65, 70, kind of
work your
slowly work.
way into it, man. Yeah, I listen because I can tell you, um, I hate for me, it's even more of a thing. So I walk around like I took my sweatshirt off. I had a sweatshirt on today. I don't like the cold, man. I don't like the cold. I will in the middle of summer, I'll have a blanket on me sitting on the couch at night watching. It doesn't matter. I just I have an aversion to the cold. So for me to put myself in that position knowingly, that mental takeaway for me is even better.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to say facing a fear because I don't have a fear of cold, but it's putting yourself in a position to endure something that's less than ideal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
When I was in pre Ranger school in 01, and it was 10 days long, it's like an assessment. And
yep.
the first 2 days were classroom days. The last 8 were seven or 8 were in the field for the whole time. I mean, you're getting 2 hours of sleep a night. You get one meal a day, MRE, it's in your rucksack. That's it. So it's conditioned to weed out people and have an assessment. Then they make a list to see who's going to go to Ranger selection. So It rained. I was in Seattle. It rained the
It's
entire
Seattle. Oh my
time
God.
in the rain. I was 20 years old. Everything was wet. I mean, everything was wet on the first hour we got in the woods. And we said,
Nothing
we have a
worse.
week of this. I
Yeah.
mean, literally sleeping in it, eating in it, peeing in it, laying in it, jumping in it, sitting in it. I mean, you can't
Nonstop.
escape it. I'm still traumatized by it to this day, John.
Yeah.
If it rains, I'll think, man, thank God I'm not sleeping out in this. It's crazy. That was over 20 years ago.
Yeah. No, that it definitely left a mark on you, right?
It did. It did.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than being wet, man. And when you're wet, like at the beginning, and you know you're never gonna get dry, and everything starts looking like raisins, and
Oh yeah.
nah, man, that's crazy. That's crazy.
That's what it is. You're right. That you got to take those good memories and you got to push them out.
Right. Oh yeah,
Unless you
yeah.
know you're coming to an end, but sometimes in the military you just don't know when the end's going to be.
No,
So
they do that too. You say, oh, and then they
yeah,
push it. They push it
they
back.
push it. So I towards the end of my 8 years, I learned to be like, nope, I'm not even thinking about it because I hear them doing this. If
Yeah,
I
yeah.
start getting distracted and I'll get all sad and homesick. So it
Right.
definitely is a mindset. And it's funny. I was my battle buddy. They signed you a battle buddy,
Okay.
and mine was this giant. I mean, I'm 5'7", and I was 140 pounds. This guy was 6'2", jacked. I mean, just built. I looked. He was in my platoon back in our home station, so I looked up to him anyway. Big
Okay.
dude, older than me. He happened to be my battle buddy, and his name was I don't want to say his name
Okay.
because I'm about to tell a story. And he's a good man though. And in the middle of the field problem, he was an E6 senior leader. In the middle of the field problem, we're in the prone position. It's called stand two. So this is like when you first wake up, you have 50% or 30% security overnight. And in the morning, when the sun first comes up, you're in a little circle in the woods, 360. Everybody's up. It's called stand to. And everybody's up because you assume at first light, that's when the enemy's going to advance on you.
Right.
You're hiding out overnight. So you're so conditioned to wake up, start kicking everyone's bag, and you're like, stand two, you get on your post. We're in the middle stand two, which we're getting, we just slept in it all night.
Oh man.
And I'm sitting there, I'm his AG, his assistant gunner. He's the gunner on the machine gun. And I'll never forget, I'm looking over, I got his extra ammo. I'm looking over him, and he looks at me and he goes, I'm out. We're in the middle of the woods.
Oh.
And I'm like, Sergeant, what do you mean? He's like, I'm out. I ain't signed up for this. He drops his machine gun and soaking wet in the middle of the woods. He just walks into the distance like Bigfoot. That old clip of Bigfoot walking in the tree.
Oh my God.
He just in like Field of Dreams, he disappears into the
Never,
trees.
never to be heard from again.
I saw him like 2 days later in the barracks. I'm like, where did you go? He's like, oh, I left. I'm like, where did you? We're in the middle of nowhere. Like, that's what that training will do to people if you're not
Right.
prepared. And I'm watching this, and I'll tell you, that's the first time at 20 years old I watched somebody quit who I didn't think would quit.
Right.
It gave me such strength. And I don't say it to be negative, but
right.
I remember looking at it because I was feeling sad for myself, sorry for myself. I didn't say anything to anybody, but I'm just in my head, I'm like, this sucks. But when he got up and he Field of Dreams into the woods and he just disappeared, I was like, oh, hell yeah. It gave me like this jolt, like, I ain't going to be me.
No, and it's funny, right? Sometimes it's the last person in the group that you think will do that. They have the outward appearance of strength, right? But it's like you learned, man, it's a mental game.
And this dude was a bad ass soldier, John. I mean, I'm not criticizing. Great leader, great man. As a man, it's just something in those moments we get broken, and I don't judge him. Certainly, as I got older, I realized I don't judge him. I mean, he just in his heart at that moment, he just wasn't in it for the fight, and I respect it.
Didn't want it. Didn't want it as bad as you did.
Right. It's true.
That's all. It's just, hey, there are times in my life when if I was put to a certain test, I either rose to the occasion or I failed. It all depends on what the priority is at the moment, right?
Yeah. It's like this whole Navy SEAL thing, the controversy about how severe the training is, and it boggles my mind. We want literally the best of the best, to do the hardest things that any of us probably would never want to do,
right?
And then we're going to tell them in the manner in which they should do it. And I'm not talking ethically or legally, but just
then they're not doing anything wrong ethically or legally,
right?
They're just
they're
making it really hard.
Yeah, the whole point of that is to see who they can push and who they can't.
Really
who can
hard.
take it and who they can't.
Yeah.
That's it.
Who wants this more? And and you read and accounts. Listen, if you quit during a training scenario, they can't have there's one character flaw that they cannot have, We all have character. The one that they will not allow and cannot allow is somebody that gives up.
Mm-hmm.
They can not be the best shot. They can not be the best guy physically. They don't have to be the strongest or the smartest. The one universal character trait that they demand is that you never give up. So how do you get that guy? You push them as hard as you can, mentally, physically, emotionally, to give up. And the guys that don't, those are your guys.
That's
It
it.
makes sense.
And we're going to train you how to do everything
Right.
else.
Right. And so why would we want anything less on a real world operation or mission where lives are at stake? We want somebody that's never going to quit.
Mm-hmm.
It,
Yeah, you're 100% right.
it,
I always have found that, like, I remember when I went in the Army at 17. I remember my uncle, who was in the Army infantry before me and then went in the FBI, just a mentor to me my whole life. And he gave me this advice, and he said, and I kind of break his chops about it now because it's not really my personality, but he said, I was only 17. You
yeah.
don't want to be known for anything. You want to
Right.
blend in. You don't want to be at the top and be a high performer. You don't want to be a hump. Just blend in that middle and you
The
won't get
gray
picked.
man.
Yeah, they
Gray
won't
man.
pick. Yeah, the friend, the buddy. And they won't pick on you or anything like that. And I did that for the first couple of weeks, John. But
Right.
what I realized is nobody's paying attention to me.
Yeah.
And I'm in a job where I'm trying to make a name for myself. And I understood my uncle's goal was to keep the, minimize my inconvenience,
Minimize your grief.
grief. But really, I want that grief. I learned I wanted it because that's how I was
Yeah.
great at it. I didn't know that at 17 until
Right.
nobody's paying attention to me and I'm watching everyone else
Yeah.
have success. And I'm like, wait a second. And I
That's
remember the
funny.
first time we were running, there was a college wrestler. Forget what school he went to. It was like Minnesota. I mean, unbelievable guy.
Yeah.
And a great, humble guy. But I remember he's running. He was like first on the run. And I remember I'm running. I wasn't near the top of the pack at all.
Right.
But I start catching up to him. And I start saying, like, am I gaining or is it? And no, he was just really hurting and sucking wigs and falling back. But I remember when I passed him, he was the college wrestler, everything that I wasn't, physically.
Yeah.
And I was still learning how to become a man at 17. But when I passed him, it gave me that jolt. It was a realization that everyone's trying to be the best or trying to be good. And only some of us are going to get there. And some of us don't get there. But it's when you see somebody give up or quit or have struggle, instead of, I don't know, use that to your advantage. Because for me, that really always helps me when I see somebody struggle. And I check in with them. And then I'm realizing, man, this ain't cut out for everybody. Let's go.
Yeah, no, it definitely redefines some things for you. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So what do you say, man? You've got a lot going on, and I got questions, man. I've got questions. I've got questions. Mm-hmm. And so what I thought we'd do, obviously, I want to celebrate you, and I want to get the word out that not that you're switching gears, because I don't like to put words in people's mouths, but you've got a new initiative, Everyday People, and are you still working with Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan and we just started back up again on the Breaking Bad show. We did one New Year's episode. Haven't released it yet. I'm still doing the post production, but yeah, we're kind of getting that back going. We came together and we kind of separated a little bit, and we're back. He's just going after some stuff that he wants to go after, so it's that time of life. But yeah, we still have it.
All right, great. So we'll let the people know that that there was a brief hiatus, and you guys are coming back strong with that. Yeah. I never, Pat Fitzgibbons, he loves you dearly. And I talk to Pat probably once every few weeks just to check in and see what's going on. We can talk about it. We don't have to talk about it. He says, Chad's got an amazing story. And I go, I don't really know Chad's story. So I don't know if you want to
let's
touch on that before we jump into what you're doing now to give it a frame of reference, or we can just talk about the present.
Let's go back, man.
Because I don't know that story, man, and so it would probably explain a lot on why you are the way you are right now and why you're so involved in being part of everybody's solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's So growing up, my dad, and I don't want to go too much into it, just
No,
take too
like,
much.
dude, like I said,
Yeah,
it was just a thought, man. I'm brainstorming this with you. We can go and do whatever you want to do. My
yeah.
goal of this is putting you out on what you're doing and how you're helping people, and how people can reconnect and get back on the Chad Bruckner train. That's my only goal today.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks, man. Yeah, the everyday people came from just in my heart of wanting. I think in this world, and I'll kind of go into my story, but I think in this world we become pretty jaded and pretty cynical and become pretty. And I'm not just talking about the law enforcement profession. A lot of people, a lot of industries, just
Sure.
people, humans, and it's kind of why I wanted to get away from law enforcement, just focus on human beings. And I think we're just so much more connected and similar to each other than we realize. And we're so good about using titles or categories or labels or anything to categorize us and separate us. But we were created the same. We have hearts and lungs. We're just brains and conscience and feelings and emotions. So it really got to me at a point of, in a world that's seemingly divisive and separate, how can we bring people back to realize and see the commonality in each other? Whether you're a CEO of a financial company or a rookie patrolman, I bet you guys have a lot more in common than you realize. And
Right.
And by highlighting and celebrating good people doing great things, it's contagious, it's inspirational, and hopefully influential for all of us. And I get a
Right.
lot out of it too. I get inspired heck out of people when I talk to them. So for me, it was giving people a voice. When I was towards the end of my law enforcement career, things were going really, really well for me. Uh, I did 8 years in the Army, went into law enforcement, ended up doing 13 years of that. I got promoted to detective in 4 years, and things are going really, really well. I was doing undercover and really loving the work and loving the impact in the community. Personally, I was going through changes as well, as we all do. And
Sure.
I got married, became a father. I have 3 kids now. So I was going through that process. I had definitely some
Beautiful family,
baggage.
by the way, brother. Beautiful
Oh,
family.
thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, it was
There's
great.
never a picture I see you with your family that this side of the mouth isn't touching one of your ears and the other side of the mouth isn't. I mean, that's just so awesome, man.
Yeah, man. I'm John. I'm so lucky, man. I really am lucky, and I don't just say it. Like I told my wife today before she left for work. I looked at her. I said,
Yeah.
"Thank you for loving me," because
Yeah.
I know I'm tough sometimes.
You're a
I'm all
piece
over
of
the
work,
place.
brother. Aren't we all?
Yeah, I'm up and down, left and right. She's like,
Yeah.
What's your latest venture you're working on today?"
Yeah, no doubt.
But so I was going through those personal changes too. I've always really deep thinking, and very emotional, very sensitive. Um, very empathetic, kind of grew up that way. What I started to struggle with in the military, it started, but definitely in law enforcement, was I started to feel like those were weaknesses. Nobody was building those up in me.
Right.
And not that I put that on other people to do that. My self-esteem was low on myself. And so I wasn't celebrating that about myself. I was really critical of that about myself. So personally, I was going through some challenges, even outside of the job.
I got
And
you.
the job itself, as you know, is a very stressful job, and you're
Right.
seeing things constantly changing. And if you're not proactive on that, it's going to come get you. And it doesn't matter how tough or strong you are, and what your rank is, it will come for all of us eventually. And so those things were kind of conflicting at the same time. Then we had some new leadership came in, and they made some new kind of drastic decisions that were different than the norm. And I was one of them. I got reassigned from detective back to patrol.
Okay.
I was told it wasn't a performance issue. It was I don't know, but we know how those things go.
Right.
My guess, John, looking back on it, is my emotional health wasn't as best as it could have been. So I own the fact that I probably wasn't in the best spot to receive any kind of good news or bad news or anything like that.
Right.
But it always takes two people, multiple parties to tango. So it was just one of those situations that I was literally getting my master's at that time, trying to be the next chief of police. When that chief retired, and within a year and a half, I was gone. I was out of the agency, and but man, I am so I try not to reflect that much, but I was doing it today, talking to my brother because supporting him, and I look back at that, man, and I'm just like, I wish I could do it again. Think about what I'm about to tell you. I wish I could do that again. I wish I knew now or then what I know now.
Right.
I would sign me up in a second, because I want to test my skills. Actually,
Sure.
I want to test my resiliency. I want to, because I did not handle that the best way for
Right.
me. I didn't go public or anything like that, but man, I just was not the best version of myself. I didn't respond to that favorably. Started drinking like crazy, and got to a point where my wife said something, people noticed in my personal life, started becoming antisocial and pulling myself away from social events, which is not my normal disposition. And
Right.
it really got to, so the worst of it was probably September to January, from September 2019 to January 2020. I was just in a very depressed state, suicidal ideation. I remember working Thanksgiving night. I was just telling my sister the story because she's like, I had no idea. Was the first Thanksgiving in 8 years I had to work because I was a detective. I was off every night. So I was grateful to have all those nights off.
So you were in the DB and you had a great schedule. You get pushed back to the road, and now you're working Thanksgiving night, and you haven't worked. You don't work holidays normally unless you're major crimes and you get called out or something. So you're
Exactly.
working Thanksgiving night, back on the road.
On patrol. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I am in a bad spot. I'll tell you that. I was really hating myself. I was angry at the whole situation, or angry at other people, but really, John, the crux, I was angry at myself, and I realized I wasn't loving myself, forgiving myself, showing myself grace. So then that manifested in everything. All my interactions with people were that I was hurting. So I want you to hurt too. I'm going to make your life difficult, or just not be the nicest person. So through that, so I'm working Thanksgiving night.
Yeah.
I'm really depressed. My wife comes in and visits me with the kids. They bring me in a plate of food, and there's actually a picture. I posted this on social media maybe a year, and I made a post of it. But I'm with my family in uniform. I'm hugging them, and I'm smiling on my face. I was wearing a mask, brother. Wearing a mask. They leave. I kiss them. They go home. I finish my shift. Made an arrest that night. Actually, got broke into somebody's house. And I'm driving home at 6 a.m. We got done, and I'm looking for all these spots on the turnpike, which is probably the best way to drive my car off, because it was over like an elevated area. I didn't want to die, but I was so hopeless. I was so ashamed of who I was. Honestly, I was like, there's no family that could be proud of me. There's no person that could be proud of me.
Right.
I brought great discredit to my family. Like, I think like this, how my brain goes.
Right.
The Bruckner name. Like, I was thinking, like, I brought my woe to my father's. Like, he must be ashamed of me. Like, it was bad, man. It was really bad. And I didn't share that part of it with anybody. And because I didn't know what I was going through, you know how that feeds itself really quick.
Yeah, it does.
It got to the point, man. I'm on 4 or 5 double IPAs by noon. By 2. I'm starting by 11. I'm drunk by noon, or 2 or 3, and I just remember crying, sitting in my bathrobe. I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't shave on my off day. So detectives, you're working every day.
Right.
Now I'm on the road, and I'm home on these weird days. My wife's at work, my kids are at school, and the loser is at home doing nothing, not feeling purposeful at all. That's how my brain
is.
So it was just a self-fulfilling prophecy that I could not stop. And I know other people have been through that can relate. So I think the only thing that really saved my life, honestly, was relationships.
I was going to say, so how'd you pull out of that, man? Because that's a spiral that I think a lot of us can find ourselves in, because we don't know what we don't know in that moment. How'd you get out of that spiral, brother?
Being on the CISM team, being a mental health advocate, being certified, trained in those things, because my natural heart was want to help people and give back to the profession. So the eerie thing is, I was at a suicide awareness and prevention conference. I believe it was it COPS?
Sure, Concerns of Police Survivors.
That's what it was. It was a COPS conference, like February or January 2019 in Hershey, PA. And I'm at this conference, and I'm watching this former fighter pilot, talk about, he's the keynote, giving his suicide story, his survival. And it resonated so much with me because he was military. I was former military.
Yeah.
But I remember feeling bad for him in that moment, not being able to relate to him. And then fast forward all those months later, I started to feel that. It was just weird. So those experiences, it helped me realize that I knew I was counseling cops. Hey, if you feel this way, if you have a plan and intent, you have to tell somebody. Or if you're a cop and they disclose in you, one of your partners has a plan and intent, you can't turn a blind eye. You have to have a conversation or make a referral. These are things I knew I'm being educated on and going through. And it was weird to have it be on me. I looked in the mirror. I remember I was crying. It was kind of like the aha moment. I'm crying. I'm in my bathrobe. I'm looking in the mirror and staring right at the mirror. Crying. Are you happy with yourself? Are you proud of yourself? And I remember he answered my own question. No. And I just started cold calling therapists. I mean, I'm crying. I remember leaving a voicemail on this one therapist who ends up being my therapist. He calls me back.
No kid.
Yeah. And I'm crying. I couldn't even talk. I remember he even said, like, I think you apologized so many times because I couldn't talk. You couldn't talk. I couldn't understand what you're saying. You kept saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I love that, man, because I feel like those broken moments are the ones we need to fall back on. So when we either with somebody else, we remember
Right.
that, or when we're in our glory, instead of being a cocky asshole, we can look back and say, man, I'm going to be humble through this. I'm going to smile through this. Cause I remember
Yeah.
when this is all I ever wanted was to feel a little pride, little something powerful for this world. And it makes you enjoy that much better, I think. So yeah, I got into therapy. The relationship saved me. My marriage was, I mean, I tell my wife, I probably wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for her,
Right.
for sure. My parents, and just being self-aware. I think that really helped me when people point things out to me. And I was like, oh man, that's my wife's like, you're drinking a lot more. And I was a very social drinker, weekends, events, holidays, nothing
Sure.
crazy. And then, I'm bringing home the 16-ounce double IPAs. Yeah, and I'm crushing a 4-pack. I'm hiding the cans. I'm putting some in one can, some in another. I'm coming down to the bar basement and I'm sneaking a shot at, when I get home from work just to take the
Yeah.
edge off. The things that I told myself, that's normal. That's what cops
Right.
do. This is what we do, man.
Yeah.
We're putting our lives on the line. We're
Yeah.
saving people. We're
Yeah.
arresting people. If we come home and tie one on, that's okay. That's how we
Yeah.
compartmentalize. I heard that from older sergeants and leaders, so I just did it. Just
Sure. We rationalize that unacceptable behavior, right?
yeah, we rationalize it. Yep. And when I finally get out of my own way and started getting to therapy and started to learn about EMDR and then started to dig deeper on my military trauma history, and it was like this. It was the floodgates were open,
Do you feel that
and
weight, man? That weight get
it was the
lifted?
weight. It was that. Yeah, it was the weight for sure. The weight. I felt like I could be me. So it was definitely a weight that came off my shoulder. I could be me, but it was the floodgates of curiosity, of knowledge.
Cool.
I had a chip on my shoulder. I had an ego. I think we all do. I was
Right.
certified as an expert in a lot of areas and as a detective. And
Sure.
people would call me for things, right? When we start to tell ourselves, I'm somebody important. Um, but that humility, that what I was going through, but now there's these methods and these treatments and these abilities and outside the box ways to feel better, feel more happy and purposeful. And it was a drug. It was like sign me up. And quitting alcohol was because I didn't really have an addiction problem. It was
Right.
more self-medicating through that moment.
Sure.
But it was like turning a leaf, man. It really was, because then I started watching YouTube videos, reading books, reading like crazy, talking to doctors, learning more things on LinkedIn, messaging people like crazy. Hey, I see you're trained in this, you're certified. Tell me about this. It just opened this door that I would have never had. I don't think I would have had open if I didn't go through that. So
Right.
that fixed mindset is a scary thing, because I was like that, where you kind of just sit back, you go to your trainings and your courses, and you don't really evolve or grow that much, and personally or professionally. But yeah, I needed that because man, it's been a life changer for me, and meeting people like you and other people. So it's been
Yeah,
awesome.
no, likewise, man. No, I thank you for sharing that because I I knew there was something, right? I knew there was an experience that made you who you are today. Nobody just becomes you with the passion and the commitment to helping others unless there's a story. It's just and I never knew. That's awesome, man. If you had known then what you know now, right? If you had known back then what you know now, what would you have told? What you would you
Mm.
have told Chad, knowing what you know now, man? When you
That's
got transferred from the great assignment back to the road, and you saw that happening to you back then, and now you have those life experiences.
mm.
What would the sit down for coffee be with young Chad, the police officer on patrol now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I never thought about that until you just said it, or asked it. I think first thing I give him a hug, man,
How
giant,
about that?
a big giant hug, and I would hold him for 30 seconds, even if he tried
Yeah,
to pull away,
right,
and I'd whisper in his ear. I said, "You're special. You don't know it. You don't know
right,
it yet. You believe this is." Oh man, I'm getting choked up thinking about it. You believe this is a vindicate. You believe this is an assault on you or anything. Your best days haven't happened yet, and
right,
I know this is hard, and I know it's painful. I'm going to be here with you. I'm going to walk with you, and it's going to suck some days, but you have so much good in you that you don't even know is going to come out, and someone's going to find it in you and pull it out. It's going to be multiple people, and they're going to
right.
find it, and they're going to pull it out, and you're going to love people again, and you're going to love yourself again. And it's just, yeah, I would have just been so positive. um, and I would have probably just kept talking until my older self would be like, "Yo, shut the f up,"
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I wasn't in a good spot to hear that.
Sure. That's awesome, man.
That's a great question, though. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, man. I think isn't life that don't we just find ourselves I find myself constantly, man, if I only, it's a double-edged sword, right?
Mm-hmm. It
You
is.
say to yourself, if I only knew then what I know now, but the reason I am the way I am, the reason why you are the way you are is because we went through those things, right? So it shaped you. And there were some dark days, and but you didn't let those dark days win. And so I don't know if I could do it all over again. I certainly wouldn't. I would if I could remove the hurt and pain that I caused in other people's lives because they didn't deserve that. But the takeaway that I bring with me growing as a man, I don't think I would ever change. I would change the hurt that I put on people, but maybe not the self-inflicted pain because I think we come out stronger.
Hmm.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, no, I actually thought about you a couple times in the last year because one, so I'm dealing with some stuff in my personal life. I'm going to definitely want to get to what you're saying because I want to actually kind of a conversation for you. But one of the things I really struggle with in my life is judgment. I've become non-judgmental towards pretty much everything in my life, except those who commit infidelity. I don't know why. I don't know why in my life I was resentful of those people, angry towards those people. I don't know why. I don't. I don't.
I
I
I,
was
I
never.
can tell you why. But go ahead. I know why.
Yeah, I would love to learn. Yeah, I was never cheated on myself or betrayed in that level, and I never did that to anybody. But why that resonated with me so much, I don't know. And thinking about, I remember our interview from the Breaking Bad show. Just thinking about, you're the first person that I can actually say they committed that, they did it, but they rebounded, they learned, they're putting that, they're fixing that good. And I just never had conversations or met anybody that did those things and then took that level of growth and trying to fix it. It was like, this is so hard, I'm going to just avoid it. And I want to ask you, how did you walk through that fire, man, of knowing that this is going to be, I would imagine, I don't know, but the hardest thing you ever went through. I would imagine you would have run 1,000 times from
All right. So you're interviewing me now. All right.
that.
All right. Good. All right. So I know. Let me go back. The reason why you're so incensed by somebody that you know that is stepping out or not being true is because of the weight and the value that you put and the energy and the effort that you put on building this beautiful family of yours. And you can't imagine that somebody would intentionally destroy that.
Mm.
And it burns at the very core of your belief system. How dare you destroy something so special and so beautiful? That's why you get so fucking mad about it. Um, that's my
Yeah.
Psych
I mean,
101, my Psych 101 assessment with absolutely no schooling, but
I think
because
you're
it
right, man. I
is
think you're right. And I got to work on that because I don't want to be that way either.
no, but listen, it's okay to be that way. You don't have to fall in line, man. You don't have to pretend that you're okay with bad decisions people are making. Um,
Let me, if I can interrupt you, because
yeah,
so this here's what and let me, because you're right about that, and naturally I'm a people pleaser, so I always kind of want to make people feel comfortable and
sure.
but yeah, stances and views are just that. I'll say that some people in my life that are really close to me, I'm really close with them. They have committed those acts, two
Sure.
people specifically. And each time, each one of them, I've known a long, long time, it caused conflict because I didn't handle it right. They were a friend asking for help, and I came into that friendship, that encounter, putting all my judgment or my values onto them, and it didn't become collaborative. Then it became confrontational.
Okay.
That is a friend. That's what I'm talking about. I need to work on that
Okay.
because
No,
that's my value structure, but doesn't
no.
have to be
Good
yours.
check. Good check. Yeah. Listen, I what I meant was don't be complacent in that. Be part of the solution, like you are with every other issue that people come to you with.
Right, right.
Right. So I mean, you can voice your opposition to it, but then you become part of their solution by trying to understand, coach, mentor, support, not the continuation of the transgression, but the development of the person to being the person that you both know they could be. Right.
Mm.
One perspective is condoning, which is never going to happen. Right. But so it's the acknowledgement and then being part of the solution. And so there doesn't need to be a conflict. We're big boys, man. We can have the conversation. Hey, I think what you're doing is pretty shitty, man. I think it's really shitty. They don't deserve that. You don't deserve that. So I'm here for you if you want to get on the right path, man. I'm here for you to do whatever you want, but if you're going to continue doing that, I don't want to be a part of that.
Damn.
And that's a respectful conversation. That's letting people know that you love them, and that you want to help them get back to the man that they can look in the mirror and be proud of. And unfortunately, not everybody wants that for themselves. Mm. So, no, you're good. You're not. Hey, listen, not everybody gets a trophy, man. Not everybody wins, unfortunately. As much as we want everybody to have a life, with a picture with their wife and 3 kids, and just loving the connection in the moment and the excitement of tomorrow. Unfortunately, man, that's not a vision that everybody shares. And so you could help somebody get to that, but ultimately if that's not their vision,
yeah, you're right, man. That's hard for me with my friends sometimes.
Yeah,
it's just hard. It's to watch them make mistakes, and especially when they're I make mistakes. I go to my friends too.
Right.
But those big moral decision ones are they're interesting. They're people that I would say are highly moral, yet find themselves in situations. Yeah, I don't. It just frustrates me as their friend. I don't want to see them make decisions, especially when I know their spouses and I'm really close.
Right. Oh yeah, it makes it
really
awkward
hard
for everybody, man. But I can tell you, right, Chad. So I never stopped loving my wife when I stepped out on her. I really, I didn't care about me, man. I absolutely fucking hated me. And I had friends come to me that were like, what are you doing? What in God's name are you doing? Did you know where this is going? Do you know, like the ghost of Christmas future? Like, this is what's going to happen, man, if you stay on this road. And those are the conversations that I needed to hear from people that knew me, right?
When they were telling you those things as your friend, like what was your immediate reaction when they're telling you these things?
So I had friends, acquaintances, right, that condoned that it was, because we're all on the job, everybody's got a side piece, it's a very toxic environment, and we talked about this, like when crazy becomes normal, man, who's going to check you in your circle if everybody's kind of off the rails? So, my friends started seeing me become really reckless at work. Um, I didn't I didn't want to kill myself, but I didn't want to live. And so it didn't matter, man. I really endangered, myself and other people by reckless behavior. And one of my guys got with me and he was just like, um, I don't want to see you eat your gun. That got my attention, man. Nobody had ever said that to me. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's just like he knows. It's like, this is how this is playing out, man. If you continue on this road, we're burying you, and I don't want to bury you. So I'm like, all right, you got my attention. What are we talking about here? And he said, these are the things that are going to happen. And you got to be okay with these things that are going to happen. And if you're not, then change. Start making decisions that keep the things that you can't accept, keep that from happening. Start taking care of you. And that was the first time in my entire life, that anybody ever talked to me about, why don't you start doing things with you in mind and not somebody else? When Chad, I went back to Boston to be with my dad and my mom during the height of this. Now, my dad had left my mom, and I go back to Boston to seek like counsel, like from my parents, because I was all fucked up. And my dad is almost like my dad. It was so terrible. My dad was like, "Oh, you're just like me," like kind of trying to align, like, it's okay. I left your mom. You're gonna leave your wife. You're an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic. You know, this is just the way we are. And he was seeking like comfort in that his son was just as much of a fuck up as he was. And I was just like, that scared me. I was just like, no, man, I'm not like you. Like Chad, I literally arrived, had a conversation, went and saw my mom, jumped back on a plane and went home. I was
Mm.
like, that's not going to solve any of my problems. And so I don't know. You got me talking about this, man.
It, because not many people do, and
Yeah,
I feel like, especially in the law enforcement community and military. I mean, we can. I was just talking about this the other day with somebody, like a men's group or a men's ability for men to come somewhere and
right.
in a just a sterile environment, share thoughts like this and talk about it.
Yeah,
So we don't have to judge. So maybe somebody comes to the group like John Kelly in the middle of it and is actually comfortable to say, hey, "Here's what I'm doing," and
right.
then we're in part of this group. But we don't have a lot of opportunities like that.
No, I
Uh,
think it's important, Chad, because I can tell you that when I was doing that, when I was in that place, I felt very alone. I felt like there was no one that I could talk to that could provide me any guidance. And it wasn't until my behaviors got so extreme and concerning that people were like, wait, this guy's going to fucking kill himself here. This is not, we got to jump in here because this isn't going to end well. And so pulling myself out of this right now, I like what you just said because think about this, right? The number one killer of cops is suicide, right? For every bad guy that kills a cop, 2 to 3 take their own life. Chad, of those 2 to 3 that take their own life, half of them are the result of a divorce or a breakup of a relationship. Right? This epidemic that we're so concerned about starts with maintaining our relationships with our spouse.
mm,
And that's the first cornerstone of this thing of ours. And if we don't put the time and energy into that, then there's this ripple effect. I mean, suicide is multifaceted, but it's a bunch of little things left unattended that shift a slide. Like we all slide. From time to time we slide and then we correct and we
mm,
get our footing. But when we don't adhere to this self-care belief system, that slide becomes an avalanche, man. And nobody's stopping the avalanche. If you're in the avalanche, you're dying. And
mm.
so I think the push is we got to stop. We got to stop the slide, right? We're all going to slide, but we got to stop it because if it becomes an avalanche, nobody's walking away from that. And oh, we just
And if we address those slides before they become avalanches,
right.
they're not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not a big. It's manageable because it's one incident. It's two. It's being proactive, and I think that's where we missed the boat. So you and I are in the same space. We know a lot of the same people. I want to punch people in the mouth when they say, smash the stigma and let's just fucking just stop. There's no stigma. There's no stigma. We want. I'm probably gonna get shit for this, but I don't care. Um, I have seen some horrible things in my life. You have seen some horrible things in your life. I have picked up dead bodies and had their skin come off of my hands. I've had people try to kill me. I I've had I've held broken bodies and dead babies and it sucked. Seeing all of that has never made me want to hurt myself. Just fucking doesn't. Those aren't the things that are killing us. The things that are killing us is we're intentionally dismantling everything that is good in our lives because we won't talk, we won't communicate, we won't show empathy, we won't care for each other. And so when we create an environment of indifference, when
Yeah, you're right.
when you've got nothing to love or live for, you take your own life. And
Mm-hmm.
are there some extreme examples of folks that have suffered extreme cases of traumatic stress that haven't dealt with it properly, that find themselves in dark places? Absolutely.
Yep.
And I don't mean to be insensitive to that, but I think those numbers are few and far between, especially when we know statistically the guys that kill themselves, they kill themselves because of a breakup of a relationship, because of that support network that they've been relying on
Hmm.
is no longer there. And now truly they're alone. And that's a shitty place to find yourself, alone. And so I think if we don't have to we don't have to surrender to this, man. We don't have to fucking light a candle and cry over it. We can just be proactive, right? We
Exactly.
can say, no, fuck you. That's not going to be me. I need to start taking inventory. I need to get a handle on my relationships. I need to be a better father, son, husband, wife, whatever. I need to start taking care of me. I need to start loving me. I need to start being responsible. I need to make self-care a priority. And I need that. So, but I think that fucking catch shit for this. There's a segment of this thing of ours that there's a group of people making money off of people killing themselves. It's an industry. It sounds fucking shitty, but it's like it's almost
But
like the
isn't
farm.
that isn't that anything where
It's
money is
almost
skin
like
in
the
the game?
pharmaceutical companies, like right, like we want to keep you. We don't want to cure you, right? Because if we cure you, then you don't need our medicine. But we want to keep you on the ropes long enough to justify our existence. Like,
Hmm.
I think it's shitty that we even have to talk about suicide and that we have to have these discussions. Like, this shouldn't be a fucking thing, right? You
Yeah,
want to talk about financial health, you want to talk about strengthening your relationships and being a better leader. And those are the conversations that we should be having.
mm-hmm.
How do we enrich our life? We can't even get to that point because our lives are in the balance because of self neglect.
Yep, yeah, for sure.
You got me
But
all jacked up, bro.
when I put in my retirement paperwork in January of 21, just people came out of the woodworks, to celebrate or say thank you
Right,
or hey, tell me what's going on, or they call people off guard, call me off guard. So
right.
I understood that. But there were a lot of people trying to talk me out of it from a sense of like, you don't know what you're doing, or most businesses fail, um, and I remember one conversation I had with somebody who's like, oh, I get it, man. So I was on the street all 2020, COVID, the George Floyd riots.
Yeah.
And I found myself in all these situations. I'm like, man, welcome back to the street. And at the end of 20, I retired. And I remember this one person's cop looked at me, and I'm close to them, and he says, man, thank God you're getting out of here. You don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
Yeah.
I said, what stuff's that? Well,
Yeah.
the street. Well, what do you mean? The stuff in the community. I'm like, well, what? I don't know what you're talking about. The George Floyd and the COVID. I'm like, oh, well, the community. That I'm not leaving because of that. Like, he was caught off guard. He's like, well, why are you leaving? He just couldn't understand,
oh
And I
man.
was like, dude, that's not 1%. I love the community.
Right.
The
Right.
community is what keeps me here.
Job's the best job in the world, man.
Yeah. It was
Just
the shit inside my building, which was
yeah.
very dysfunctional, toxic, and my
Oh,
own stuff.
I just
My own
talk
stuff.
about that with Tom Rizzo, man. You know,
Yeah.
sat down with Tom, and it's like this culture is we eat our own, man.
Yeah.
It's just that's the toxicity, man, that we're trying to get away from. That's why people aren't flocking to the profession. It's toxic. Got to
Toxic. Who
get
wants
our
to be
shit
around
together,
toxicity?
man.
And I guess the rub is it's not anti law enforcement. It's just anti culture.
Yeah.
It's anti this tough person culture that we created that we think is how we're supposed to do the job. And I don't know. I don't know if it was me coming back from combat and then pretty much going into police work, but I didn't view police work as combat.
No.
I didn't treat people like it was combat. I didn't, because I was in combat. These are our
Right.
brothers and sisters. These are our citizens. Now, we know you have crazy people you deal with. We understand there's people,
Sure.
emotionally disturbed people you're dealing with in the community. But by and large, you're dealing with your brothers and sisters in the community. And just a level of ego and lack of inclusion I saw. And, I was just talking to a municipality the other day for my job and, talking to the township manager and I love this, I love this, I love this. But man, my police department, we're just doing this the whole time, all day
Right.
we do this. Why? Why are we like this? Why do we own the badge of honor? Like, oh, we're going to be different.
Yeah.
Why can't we come into the public works and the fire department role? Like, why do we have to be divisive? Like, do we enjoy that? And it seems to be an ego thing that,
Yeah.
from a leadership perspective. So I know a couple departments that have amazing leadership. They're smaller, but you see the difference. You see
Sure.
how people enjoy working, the training opportunities, when there is critical incidents, their needs are met. The officer, as human beings, we have basic needs. If you don't meet our basic needs, whether we're police officers or not, we're going to feel scared or unsafe. So
Right.
if I come into work with anxieties, I don't know what's going to happen about my job. That's
Yeah.
not probably a good spot for me to start for the community.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt. Now, yeah,
Yeah.
and then you're tasked with everything else. Why aren't you performing the way you're supposed to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, there might be some other variables in play there that we're not addressing.
And the rub is this: I just heard of an agency that instituted these daily reports again, where you handwrite every minute of the day. You account for all your hours.
Oh, like a daily
Because it's a
log.
lack of leadership. It's a lack of leadership, a lack of accountability. But that's my rub. Instead of inconveniencing every single member of that police department, that agency, why don't we as leaders be a little bit more proactive? If
Right.
my guys or girls aren't doing what I think they should be doing, well, then I need to get out there and do it with them.
Yeah,
right?
how about that? Maybe I should
Yeah,
get
it's
out from
amazing. I
behind
don't
the
need you to
desk.
write a report
Yeah.
or do these daily forms. I'm just going to do my job a little better because it's not about you. If you're not doing your job the right way, that's all reflection.
It's a reflection of you, isn't it?
Yeah.
As a leader.
Yeah. And, it's going to take strong leadership to look themselves and say, I was just telling somebody about this the other day, is I love law enforcement. I love the people. I love the mission. I love the great, kind hearts in it. So many of them. But until collectively we raise our hands, and I'm talking about every single executive in America, raise our hands and say, we are part of the problem. We are probably a big part of the problem. Until that happens, it's like a marriage that, if you don't go to counseling and you don't acknowledge your faults, or you don't
we both got to everybody's got to take a little ownership, right?
Exactly.
And we don't have to share it equally, but everybody's got to admit that they've played a role in where we're at right now.
Exactly. Everybody.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes. Yeah, you're 100% right, man. So speaking to that, well, listen, man, dude, I could talk to you for days, bro.
We could do a marathon one day and see how
long we are going to do some. Yes. So we've got inter-county investigations and solutions, one on one branch of the Chad Bruckner organization. This is how we're doing it. You've got the Breaking Bad show coming back in full effect. You and Ryan took a brief hiatus to work on some separate projects. That's coming back. You got an episode to release for January, hitting 2023 hard. And you've got your latest initiative, which I think will be the most impactful moving forward, is Everyday People, a movement to honor ordinary people doing extraordinary and selfless feats for others. Oh, so
lift people up, babe. We got to lift them up, celebrate.
I'm telling you. And you know what? I watched a couple of your clips on the female detective that was sex trafficking detective. And you know what? I think have you gotten together with Ken Fraunfelter?
You know what? We traded some messages about doing an episode together, and I think we both just got busy, so it kind of fell off. But
reconnect with him. He does a podcast called "What's a Hero's Podcast," and he talks about like people like yourself doing just amazing things for people, law enforcement, first responders, just people out there doing their thing. When we started this, you mentioned, I like that you're trying to create a sense of hope, because right now, I don't like watching TV in the house. I don't like watching news, but I got to put it on for a few minutes just so I can be somewhat connected to what's going on. I read books. I don't read the news. The level of divisiveness, not only politically, right? Because that's always going to be there, but even within political parties, like people that are supposed to be on the same page can't be on the same page, right? We're still trying to figure out who the speaker is going to be, apparently. Damn Republicans can't get their heads out of their asses long enough to make a decision.
Whole thing's a
Um,
mess.
but you know what? Just on a community connection level, holding the door for somebody, saying thank you, good morning, um, bringing back a level of civility and calmness to our interactions, I think, is a place that this type of initiative is going to touch people. Tell me a little bit more about everyday people.
Yeah, no, it's all the things you said is what I'm really excited about. Being able to tell stories. I love naturally telling stories and sharing stories. I love listening to stories, and through all these stories that we hear throughout the day, whether you're at the UPS guy or at the grocery store, you hear these stories, and you're like, well, that's a pretty cool story. Yet
Right.
we don't, we kind of just blow it off and pass it. So that's kind of one aspect of it. Two, the hope. I mean, you hit it right on the head I know when I was going through my suicidal ideation and feeling that lack of hopelessness. I mean, I was looking forward to nothing. I had no hope. Even though I had this beautiful family, this
Right.
beautiful life, I have all these great things, but I couldn't get out of my own way. And all the hope I needed was right around me. And I think it's right around all of us. We just have to be a little bit less divisive and use that energy to kind of pivot into more positive stuff. And I just, again, we kind of talked about earlier, but I feel like little motions, right? We don't have to move mountains. When I was younger, John, I wanted to move mountains. And I say it, I think I might even post about it because that was kind of my thing as a cop. I want to move mountains. I want to, because I thought that meant I was successful. I did these big, audacious things.
Yeah.
I got older and realized, yeah, those are great.
Yeah.
But one, they're not common.
Yeah.
Two, it's the stuff that moves the world is the daily, consistent stuff.
Yeah. That's how you move mountains, man. One brick, one stone, one shovel of dirt at a time.
Yeah. So, dude, I was trying for years. I'm trying to build a house in a week or climb the mountain in one jump. And I didn't realize I was probably working against myself a little bit.
Right. No,
So
that's a great observation, man.
this is an opportunity for me to let things kind of play out organically, hear these amazing stories from people, put it out. And what I've been noticing is and it's only so new, but the organic feedback, the DMs, the text, the
Yeah, man.
emails, the heart emojis, the thank you for those little encounters and connections are like, whoa. I
Good.
I didn't not embrace those when I was younger. I didn't realize how important they are. So now
Right.
that I understand that, I'm going after all that. And what I'm seeing is if I could share that with everybody else together collectively, we can lift each other up and have conversations. And I sat with somebody, a stranger, the other day for 10 minutes next to him. We didn't say a word to each other. And I thought it was the first 2 minutes was uncomfortable. The next minute after that, I'm going to say something because this is
Yeah.
just weird. It's two of us. Our thighs are touching, John. Our legs
Yeah.
are touching. And I'm going to say something. That's my personality. I'm going to break the ice. I'm going to say something. This is just weird. It was like a doctor's office.
Oh, I was going to say it wasn't like in a bathhouse or anything, right?
No.
Good,
That
good,
was
good
a
call,
different
bro.
time of my life.
Good call.
I got so many of those stories. Thank God we don't go
Ah,
down that road. But
hey,
but after like 10
when you serve
minutes,
up a softball, bro, I gotta swing at it, you know?
I'll have to tell you a Thailand story when we get offline. But after like 10 minutes, I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But this whole time, like they're probably not thinking like I am, but I'm a
Right.
deep thinker. But after like 10 minutes goes by, I didn't say anything. And now I'm not awkward. I'm not uncomfortable. And I was actually, it's going to sound hokey and hippie-ish, but I was feeling their energy.
Sure.
I didn't
Okay.
know who they were. They didn't know who
Right.
I was, but I was comfortable sitting there when I wasn't comfortable 5 minutes early. Think about that. Now,
Right.
without a word being spoke, there's a connection being formed. It's
Right.
harmonious. It's synergy. I
Right.
just realized like now, and I wish I would have noticed I was younger, but I guess that's the chicken or the egg. You got to learn at some point that
No, listen,
these
it's
connections
not,
are what move the
yeah,
world.
it's not as important when you finally figure that out, as long as you do eventually figure it out, right? And it sounds like you have. That's
Still
awesome, man.
learning.
How can we follow you, get in touch with you, um,
Yeah,
and
LinkedIn.
enlist
So
some of your services, man?
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. So my PI firm, Intercounty Investigations, is you can check us out on the web. We're active on LinkedIn too. Intercountyis.com is our website. And then Everyday People, we're working on a website now. I'm excited about that. This is John. Listen to this. Somebody from LinkedIn saw who has a background in IT and website design, reached out, and I posted about this. Created a new logo for me because the one I did was
I
not that
saw the
good.
logo. It looks awesome.
Worked on new banners for the YouTube page.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you might be able to hear my
No,
dog.
it's all right.
And now he's building a website for me for free.
It's
And
awesome.
his whole thing was, I don't. And he said to me, I don't expect anything from you.
Right.
And that when he said that, I jumped right on his profile. I left him a beautiful recommendation,
Sure.
review, and I'm going to donate money to. I'm going to find a way to compensate.
Absolutely. No.
That level of not having to tell you you owe me, like if people can learn, if we can find a way to figure it out, like the old days where we barter, trade and barter.
Yeah, yeah,
I
man.
help you, you help me. We don't have to actually talk about like the expectations. Well, I'll do
Right.
this for you if you do that. I know it's business. I know it's business, but this is a business deal. This is a business website he's
No
building,
doubt. No doubt.
and it just came together organically, and I it just fuels my mission. Like this is why we're doing it. If other
Right,
people can start to
man.
do this,
Good people helping good people, man.
yeah, man. And
Good people helping
I
good
messaged
people.
him, I texted him, I'm like, dude. And I'm the kind of guy when you do something like for me like that, I will burn trees down for you if you ask me to.
Yeah.
This is a college kid in Arizona. If he asked
Right.
me, hey, would you mentor me the next year while I try to get a job? Absolutely.
Yeah. You want
Any
coaching
time of the day you
sessions,
call,
whatever you need from me. Yeah.
absolutely. Anytime. Like
Right.
that, because I know now you're in it for the big picture, not just
Right.
transactional, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's just that confirms, man, that you're doing everything right. You know, when you create that environment where people want to be part of the solution, man. They just want to be part of the solution.
Hey,
Um,
John, haven't we been a part of enough problems in our lives? It feels good to be part of something positive. It just does. It feels good to
and
be
you know
part.
what? It's our choice.
It's our choice.
It's our choice. We get to make that choice, man, every day to be part of the solution, a part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you, sir, have always chose to be part of the solution, man. And I love you for that. That is
Oh,
awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Chad Bruckner, check him out. Everyday People podcast. Um, I'm going to put all his information in the show notes. I want you to have an awesome, blessed 2023, brother. And I can't wait to sit down with you again. This has been great.
it's been awesome, man. Next time we do it, come on, Everyday People, and we'll hack it up, man, and
Oh
help you.
yeah, man.
Help you.
You gotta give me time to recover emotionally, though, bro. You always bring out some emotion in me, man.
Oh, do I really?
Yeah,
Oh man, it's
yeah.
funny because
Not a bad, bro. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. It's you know,
it's
it's just
interesting you said that because I just did a releasing an episode here in the next 30 minutes with Stan Partlow and regarding loss and grief, and he's talking about his losing his
saw that
wife.
he lost his wife to cancer. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
and he said the same thing. He said, "Man, this is really tough and heavy," which obviously,
Right,
but even in the post production, we're kind of trading texts. And can I do this? Can I put this in? Can I not?
right.
And he's kind of giving me that feedback too. And I guess I don't realize that in myself sometimes that I can bring that out in people. So
Yeah, no, it's a level of comfort that listen, if you can have people be comfortable wanting to share the pain in their lives and that's a gift, man. That's a gift. It's not the only gift. It's you're multifaceted, man, but that's one of the things that allows you to make those connections with people. And so we were talking when I was driving in the truck, and you were saying, oh, I don't know if what gives me the right, and although all that self-doubt, negative bullshit talk that we allow to seep in. Do I have standing to be, and the fucking answer is a resounding yes. It's a resounding yes. And you give you standing.
hmm,
Nobody, you don't, I don't get it from anybody else. They don't tell me what I can or can't do. The only people that hold me back is me. The only people that undermine me is me. And so I just got to stay on top of that and keep that in check and continue to love me like you got to continue to love you. And
yes,
that's
sir.
it, man.
Yes, sir,
It's
man. Dude, you got it. I hope police executives are hiring you to be their coach, man, because you're a great tour guide, and I know you're going to help them get to a life and career fulfillment, man. Sure.
That they're not, but thank you. I'm just doing my thing, man. I'm available. You know how I roll.
Yeah.
But I have a couple of three guys around the country that I'm coaching and helping work and navigate through life, and it's very humbling when somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, can you help me and figure out some things?" And like, yeah, man, yeah,
That's awesome.
I most certainly can. So, what do you got going on the rest of the day?
I got to run some errands. I got to do some family related stuff. Friday, what is it? Friday afternoon?
Yeah, man, it's Friday.
Yeah, I'm already kind of thinking about dinner time with the kids and pizza
Good
night.
for you.
Friday nights and movie night, and
That's awesome.
my 13-year-old want to play Madden, so he whooped my butt last night. Oh my
gosh, they must be like amazing with that, right? Are you like trying to figure out how to do it, or are you pretty good at it?
I'm a Madden fan. I play like crazy. I kind of
okay, all right. So you're good at it.
Yeah, so I'm pretty good at it. And man, he is. I mean, I was beating him bad even a couple months ago. Man, he plays every day. And now I went up like 14-0. He came back and scored 28-0. I threw 3 interceptions. I threw the remote down out of frustration.
That's hysterical.
And I remember looking over at him. He goes, "Can't emotionally regulate."
Oh, he got under your skin.
He knows.
That's funny.
It's good.
All right, man. Well, listen, enjoy your family for the rest of your day. I'll let you know when I'm going to release this. It probably won't be for a few weeks. I'm actually, I don't know what it is with the beginning of the year. Maybe everybody has a sense of like this year is going to be different. Everyday people.
Everyday people. Salt of the earth.
Fuck yeah. Fuck. Listen, I can't wait to see what you do with this. It's awesome. Thanks, it's man. Awesome. We'll be in touch. All right. Yeah, brother, get to your family. We'll talk. I'll hit you up when I'm going to release this. And yeah, brother, I'm going to go do my cold plunge.
Oh, there you go.